Sir Alex Ferguson, a knighted champion. So many years the boss and we adore him. Simply the best, united through and through. Forever we will be his Red Army are some of the wordings from the song Red is the Man, Sir Alex Ferguson, that embellished the titular character to the Old Trafford faithful. If there was a manager alive more beloved to the point of reverence like the Scotsman, Pep Guardiola could be a decent shout since his time at Manchester City. But what puts Sir Alex Ferguson heads and shoulders above the Spaniard is how he's managed to maintain an almost cult-like following despite being retired for years. Unlike the former United boss, Guardiola's previous clubs have gone on to enjoy great success long after the City manager left, whether it's Bayern Munich or Barcelona. But that's not quite the case at Old Trafford. Fergie's exit left such a gaping chasm that the club has struggled to fill for years. Managers have come and found some level of success, but none ever succeeded long enough to even attempt to rival the Scotsman. And so, with each passing season, the fans grow even more disillusioned with the club, dreaming of the days of old when the Red Devils were a dominant force in the league and could afford to call one of the wealthiest clubs in the world a noisy neighbour. A time when the words "lads, it's Tottenham" meant 3 points for United rather than sharing the spoils or succumbing to a 6-1 pummeling to a trophy-averse North London club. A time recalled for the fierceness of its players and a manager who simply didn't accept mediocrity. Most people only know Sir Alex Ferguson for his 26 years as Manchester United boss. Not many are aware of his career before he arrived at the Theatre of Dreams. If you imagine it was underwhelming, think again. The Scotsman was already a managerial genius before arriving at United, having led Scottish side Aberdeen to multiple pieces of silverware, including a League Cup, 4 Scottish Cups, 3 Premier Division titles, the European Cup Winners' Cup, and then the 1983 European Super Cup. At the same time, he briefly managed the national team following the death of Jock Stein. If you think United's current slump in form is new, then you haven't been a fan of the club long enough to remember its past struggles. When Fergie was announced as the new boss in 1986, United were in rotten form. They were second bottom in the First Division table, which featured 22 teams. If you were expecting that Fergie immediately turned things around, you're in for a rude awakening. His first task was to improve fitness and discipline of the club, which the then players lacked. This proved excellent in stabilizing the team, because the club soon clawed its way into 11th by the end of the season. In his next full season in charge, United were even better under the Scotsman, finishing in second place. However, that wasn't the turning point many expected it to be. Instead, United slipped back into their slump. This continued for the next couple of seasons until 1990, when popular sentiment suggested that Fergie should be sacked. Despite looming rumours, the club held on to the manager a little longer. This turned out to be the right decision, as Fergie soon led a shaky United to a 1-0 FA Cup win over a stronger Nottingham Forest side. The next season, United remained a fairly inconsistent side, but they were on the up and coming and proving to be a more competitive team. By some miracle, Fergie dragged this team to the final of the Cup Winners' Cup, where they defeated a stellar Barcelona team to lift the trophy. Following the heroics at the Cup Winners' Cup, Fergie's side went into the 1992-93 season with more confidence. It also helped that the Red Devils snatched a young, brilliant Eric Cantona from rivals Leeds United. Both the signing and United's newfound confidence paid off hugely, landing Fergie his first league title as the United boss and the club's first since Matt Busby's days in 1967, almost 3 decades earlier. In that title-winning campaign, United came from behind to leapfrog Villa, finishing 10 points ahead of the Villains in what would become a trademark of the era of dominance soon to come. In the 1993-94 season, the Red Devils defended their league title successfully, lifting the trophy once again. However, the following season there was even more competition, with Blackburn Rovers proving unbeatable. These inconsistencies within the first team seemed to reach ahead for the Scotsman at this period, because what followed next was a massive squad overhaul. Fergie got rid of the older, more experienced players and replaced them with academy graduates. For a team that had spent more time in the trenches of the league compared to their time on top during the Scotsman's reign, there was no end to the criticisms. But in typical Fergie stubbornness, he couldn't care less. This brazenness resulted in the introduction of players who would go on to become United legends, such as Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, Phil and Gary Neville, Ryan Giggs and David Beckham. Every one of these academy graduates became a key figure in Fergie's era of dominance because he gave them his complete trust when no one else did. Alan Hansen, a pundit on BBC Match of the Day, was most vocal about Fergie's choices, famously saying, "You can't win anything with kids." And Fergie took that personally. With the new younger team, Newcastle were in the lead to win the league, with United trailing 13 points behind. Cantona had been suspended for 8 months prior, following his decision to test his flying kick technique on a Crystal Palace fan. With the Frenchman back at the head of the attack, Ferguson guided United to the top of the table, catching up with and beating Newcastle to the league. This incredible feat earned him a new improved 4-year deal. Sir Alex Ferguson may have finally ingrained it into every manager in the First Division that his Manchester United side were a threat. But nothing could have prepared anyone for the masterclass of the 1998-99 season. The club won the treble that year, becoming the only English team to achieve the feat until recently. Interestingly, the season started fairly slow. However, United built enough momentum to win the league. The best displays of Fergie's tactical brilliance were on full display, particularly in the Champions League and FA Cup. United's FA Cup run was riddled with drama, especially as they were very nearly knocked out by arch-rivals Liverpool. However, Fergie moved in for the kill with only 5 minutes left on the clock, helping to secure progress into the next round. What followed next was a tightly contested match against Arsenal that went to replay. It took a wonder goal from Ryan Giggs, in which the Welshman ran and dribbled past the opposition from half the length of the pitch to dispatch the Gunners. United continued to show immense mental fortitude in the Champions League as well. Despite being placed in a supposed group of death with Bayern Munich and Barcelona, Fergie's men marched on, dispatching Inter in the quarter-finals to go into the semis against Juventus. In the first leg, Juventus were 3-1 up. However, in the second leg in Turin, United returned the deficit to progress to the final. What made the match even more special was the performance of Roy Keane. Fewer players perfectly captured the fighting spirit of the Ferguson era than the Irishman. The Champions League that season remains a historical event to date. The bulk of the time, Bayern Munich led the match with a 1-0 lead, and United struggled to break them down. However, in extra time, goals from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Teddy Sheringham switched things up, leaving Bayern stunned. For the next couple of years, United continued to enjoy consecutive domestic success, although European success became harder to come by after claiming the trophy for a second time in 2008. One of the problems that continues to plague United post-Ferguson is big ego players. That's not to say Fergie didn't have them in his time. He did. The likes of David Beckham and Roy Keane were massive egos who learned the hard way. Fergie's hairdryer treatment was also well known in dealing with these personalities. In his words, there's a player ego that you have to deal with. As a coach, you must have control. You can't afford to let players take charge of a training session. There has to be strong discipline. Unlike today's coaches, who have to deal with the fragile egos of players at the risk of losing their jobs, Fergie's methods were pretty clear. He told you his mind, and you either adjusted or walked the plank. You were doing him a favor either way. There's no denying that of all the star-studded players to ply their trade under Sir Alex Ferguson, Cristiano Ronaldo remains the biggest name. Although his start to life began at Sporting CP in the Portuguese league, it was at Old Trafford that the Al Nassr talisman showcased himself to the world and won his first trophies and individual awards. Given the 39-year-old's closeness with his ex-manager over the years, most have credited Fergie for turning the raw talent into the beast of a player with the most insane legacy. However, in 2016, the Scotsman denied taking credit for how Ronaldo turned out. In his words, Ronaldo is a perfect example of someone who made himself. It's easy for me to say, yeah, I made Ronaldo. Many coaches might say I made this player and I made that player. But Ronaldo made himself. We just gave him the tools and the platform to excel. His ethics were incredible. Although Fergie believes his share of the credit is minimal, if at all, Tony Coton, an ex-United coach, revealed that Fergie was the brains behind the Portuguese striker's development and prowess. As Coton shared with the Daily Mail, Ferguson showed what he thought of this kid Ronaldo by handing him the club's iconic number 7 shirt when he signed him in 2003. But just as important was the gaffer's ability to recognize his weaknesses. One flaw was his habit of falling to the floor like a rag doll every time he lost a tackle. Sir Alex embarked on a mission to toughen him up, Members of the coaching team were encouraged to turn a blind eye if they saw Ronaldo being fouled in practice matches and small-sided games. The result of this gradual build-up was 118 goals, 3 Premier League titles and a Champions League trophy in 292 appearances for Manchester United, before leaving for Real Madrid. These numbers have since grown to over 800 career goals, 5 Ballon d'Ors, 5 UEFA Champions Leagues, 1 UEFA European Championship and 1 UEFA Nations League crown, amongst other awards. Sir Alex Ferguson's tenure as Manchester United manager is not just a chapter in football history. It's a saga of unparalleled success, unwavering dedication and enduring legacy. As he bid farewell to the Old Trafford touchline, Ferguson left behind a legacy etched in silverware and indelible memories. His 26-year reign stands as a testament to the power of perseverance, leadership, and an unyielding pursuit of excellence. Under Ferguson's stewardship, Manchester United transformed from a club into a dynasty, dominating English football and conquering Europe. His tactical acumen, man management skills, and insatiable hunger for victory propelled United to unprecedented heights, etching his name in football folklore as one of the greatest managers of all time. He did exactly what he said he would do, by knocking Liverpool off their effing perch.
Forever we will be his red